Hello everyone, welcome to another movie review, and that is the film Captain America: Civil War. Now right off the bat, I apologize for not getting this review up any sooner, but it's a lack of motivation, laziness, and nobody's perfect, but I'm still working on that, and I'm going to do my best to keep up with this channel. Anywho, I've seen this film twice. Saw it on opening weekend. I saw it on... First time I saw it was at the Draft House, Alamo Draft House specifically. And the second time, saw it with my mom. It was a Mother's Day that we saw it on. It was her Mother's Day gift. We saw it at IMAX 3D. And it was definitely a pristine looking picture. A typical IMAX feature. So, it's definitely an awesome experience. Now, right off the bat, I definitely enjoyed this film. I'd say it's a minor step down from The Winter Soldier, but nonetheless, it's a pretty damn good film. And I think I might see it for a third time and probably stop after that. But anywho, we actually start off in the 1991, where we see a brainwashed Winter Soldier, Bucky, being under the influence of Hydra and being recited this little word code that enables him to go on a mission, and his mission is to retrieve some kind of super serum from someone, and we later learn that that scene has a kind of an impact later on, as I had a feeling it would. But anywho, Winter Soldier is able to take out the car and retrieve the serum. And then after that, we then cut to the present day, where we see Steve leading a small mini Avengers team consisting of Romanoff, Wanda Scarlet Witch, and Sam Wilson. So they make their return. And they are fighting against Romolo from the previous film. And he is this massive armor. I think he may have enhanced his strength somewhat. And then we also find out that his face is all messed up from the building collapsing on him, but somehow he survived. And after a brief fight, that is, and after Steve gains the upper hand, Rumble tries to commit suicide by trying to blow himself up so he can avoid capture. But luckily, Wanda puts some kind of a force field around him, but throws him into a building, and when he blows up, it actually kills several people. I guess it was some humanitarians, according to Wikipedia. And because of this, and what happened in the previous Avengers film, Ultron, and even in the previous Captain America film, and possibly even what happened in New York in the very first Avengers film, because of what's happened in this destruction in people's lives, the Secretary of State, Ross, and played by William Hurt, I believe it's the same character from Incredible Hulk, General Ross. I guess he got a promotion. And Hurt does a fairly solid job in the role. He informed them that the UN is getting this accord, or Sokovia Accords, which would allow the UN to pretty much control the Avengers of what they do and how they should act. And pretty much the team is divided. Captain America, Wanda, and Wilson are definitely in disagreement, but Tony and Rhodes and Vision are all for it. And this starts a rift between Steve and Tony, or Iron Man, if you want to call him that. But anywho, while this is unfolding, while this is going to be announced at the conference in Vienna, where the accords are to be ratified, a bomb goes off, killing one of the I guess you can say the person approving of this. His character's name is T'Chaka, or whatever you want to call him, a bomb goes off, and his son, T'Challa, vows vengeance, and all the fingers are pointing towards Bucky being responsible from the supposed footage. And Steve doesn't really believe that he's responsible for this, and he tracks down Bucky himself after getting some information from Sheriff Carter. And speaking of Carter, before all this, Peggy Carter has died, and there's a very well done scene where we see Steve interact with Sharon Carter, and Emily Van Camp comes back for that role and does a fairly good job in her small but limited role. But it's a very, very poignant kind of role. Anywho, getting into the action, Rogers tracks down Bucky, and Bucky proclaims his innocence, but he doesn't want to be captured. Eventually, Wilson and then T'Challa, who is the Black Panther apparently, all get involved. T'Challa wants to kill him to avenge his father because he believes he's responsible, but that's definitely not true. Because also we encounter the main villain, and he's actually, it's interesting, it's a physical form, and yet again it's human. He's not a superhuman, but he's kind of an interesting villain. It goes by Helmut Zemo, and we see him earlier in the film track down one of Hydra's old soldiers or handlers, and he actually had the book that was able to recite that code to the Winter Soldier to enable him to go on a mission. And he actually ends up drowning that guy by somehow placing him upside down and drowning him in the sink, which was very interesting. A very tense scene, if you will. And then he comes back into play whenever Bucky is captured and the Avengers are in this facility, and Zemo takes the place of the Doctor, posing as him, and suppose he starts to question about how he feels in his missions, because eventually the power gets turned down, or someone shuts down the power. We found out that it's one of, I guess, an assistant working with Zemo. It blows out the power plant, and he's able to get the book out. He starts to recite the passcode to Bucky so he can get him into Winter Soldier, and Bucky's trying his hardest not to listen, because he's trying to resist everything he possibly can, because he knows that he's not fully over it. And he's really trying to punch his way out of this little kind of cell. It's inside of a car. It's like a car holding cell. And he's punching at the window, just punching it so many times while the code's being recited. He's doing his best not to listen, but then he goes into Winter Soldier mode and starts to go on a rampage, and Steve is unable to stop him. Wilson tries to stop him. Even the two ladies, Romanoff and even Carter, try to stop him. Black Panther seems to kind of gain the upper hand, but the Winter Soldiers, or Bucky, is able to shrug it off, and he actually tries to go into a helicopter to escape, but Steve intervenes, and he has that awesome moment where he's just grabbing onto the leg of the helicopter, just flexing his muscle like that, trying to prevent him from going, and that's a real awesome moment. It's like his Superman moment. It's like what I said before. Captain America is literally like the Superman of the Marvel franchise, and Bucky Winter Soldier tries to kill him, but he fails, and eventually the helicopter goes into the water, and it's funny because Steve ends up pulling him out of the water, and previously the Winter Soldier, or Bucky, I keep doing that, Bucky pulls him out of the water, and now Steve pulls him out of the water, and then Steve somehow sneaks him out to this facility, and when Bucky comes to his senses, he learns that he says he's definitely not responsible for that bombing, and that Zemo is, and that not only that, there was actually more than one Winter Soldier. He wasn't the only one. However, these Winter Soldiers that were created were a lot worse than he was, completely devoid of any emotion. And in a flashback, we see the Winter Soldier, or Bucky himself, engage in battle with one of these newer versions of the Winter Soldier, and that guy kicked his ass pretty good. But apparently they were getting out of control, and they start taking out all these soldiers and guards, and Bucky was able to escape out of there. And apparently they believed that Zemo was going to try to release them and unleash hell. While this is unfolding, because of Steve and Wilson going renegade, Tony still believes that the Accord needs to come into action. He still believes that that they need to be put in check, and in order to make sure that happens, he decides to pretty much form his own team. Sorry, I'm a little lost, but anyway, I'm willing to wait for the appropriation of Zemo. Rogers and Wilson have definitely gone rogue, and they're going to try to recruit their own team. So they get Clint back, Hawkeye, and he in turn attempts to get Wanda to join. Though a little battle ensues between her and Vision. Eventually, Wanda, joins them, and the last person they get involved with is Ant-Man. I knew he was going to be involved. But it's funny how the way they get him involved. There's this little funny moment where he's interacting with his members, and he's shaking Captain America's hand like for 10, 20 seconds longer than he should. He's like, "It's so awesome to meet you. I'm still shaking your hand." That was a funny moment. And then when he sees Sam Wilson, Falcon, he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry about that," and He basically tells him it's all right. That audition will never happen again. But anyways, it's a cool, funny scene. While this happens, Tony decides to get his own team assembled, and gets Romanoff, Black Panther involved, Vision, and his friend James Rhodes, and then in the last thing he gets Peter Parker involved. It's kind of interesting how they were able to fit that in. I didn't even know how the actor himself was going to be able to handle that role of Spider-Man. We only saw a little tease of it in the final trailer in his costume, which looked okay. Just thought the voice was a little awkward, but he surprisingly did a solid job, I have to admit, playing that role. For what he was given to do, he actually made his presence known. And I was surprised by that. So anyways, when they try to go into the airport, Tony's team arrive, and they have this ongoing battle, and it's done pretty well. I like how there's some one-on-ones, there's definitely definitely a great action scene right there. And then the most unexpected moment is when Ant-Man becomes bigger. And it's kind of funny when he's like, "You want to get to them? You have to go through me." Gosh, that was so funny. It was fun, exciting, funny. I mean, you name it, that whole scene. And then the dramatic moment, or dark moment, happens is when Falcon is leaving. He's being chased by Rhodes, and Vision's also following. Vision tries to hit Rhodes, but he actually ends up he tries to hit Falcon, but he ends up hitting Rhodes instead. And Tony and Rhodes try to do their best, and Rhodes asks, not Rhodes, but Wilson asks if Rhodes is okay, and of course, Tony, being pissed off, shoots him down. And the team that is most of the members of Steve's team is captured. Not Romanoff, but Wanda's captured, Sam's captured, Ant-Man's captured, and Bucky and Steve are already off to Siberia to try to locate Zemo. And of course, later on, Tony is able to find out that, Bucky was definitely not responsible for the bombing that Zemo was, because somehow he managed to wear a mask, and he, of course, killed the doctor that was supposed to be, I guess, interrogating whoever. Anyway, so they go to Siberia, both Steve and Bucky, and try to prevent, the soldiers from being awakened. But they end up discovering that the super soldiers have actually been killed by Zemo, and he ends up showing footage of Hydra's archives, and Tony has followed him. He's decided he's going to help them, but when they show this footage, they show that same car that was shown earlier, and we find out that it's it's Tony's parents, and that Bucky, who was the Winter Soldier back then, killed them. And he finds out that Captain America or Steve hid this from him. He turns on both of them, starts to fight them. It's a very well done scene. And while this is going on, Zemo actually tries to commit suicide. And T'Challa, having learned that Bucky was not responsible and finds out that he was, tracks him down and actually has this dialogue with him where vengeance really can fuel a lot of people into killing. And Zemo actually tries to kill himself, but T'Challa stops him from doing that. It's like, you're not getting off that easy. And while this is going on, the battle between Steve, Iron Man, and Bucky, done very well, and ends up with Bucky's arm, metallic arm, being shot off by Iron Man's laser power, and then Steve actually, disarms Stark by knocking out the arc reactor, and causing even a further rift between them. I'm sorry if I seem lost. I'm trying to remember as best I can. It's been 2 weeks. But anyway, overall, the plot's fairly good. It's I can understand why people don't want to really go on their own judgment, not go by what the government says or what the UN says, by taking control of everything. I definitely am in Team Cap for that reason. But I can understand from Iron Man's point of view, because earlier in the film we see that we see a de-aged Robert Downey Jr., and they did a very good job on that. Somehow CGI, whatever they used, they did a good job on making him look young. We see this little simulation of him interacting with his parents, and I guess he kind of had a rocky relationship with his father. I guess he had a somewhat decent relationship with his mother. But he says goodbye or something to them before they go on this trip. But I guess apparently it was a simulation. That's what he would have done. But I guess in his earlier life, in his actual real life, that never really happened. It kind of, ended on a sour note. And I guess before he had a chance to, give him a proper goodbye or a love you, they were taken from him. And I can understand why Tony got pissed and why he loses it at the end. So I can understand Iron Man or Tony's point of view as well. And all the performances are pretty damn good. Steve, Chris Evans really has transitioned into that role of Captain America. Truly believes what he truly believes in every. He really truly believes in what he's fighting for. He sticks by his word, no questions asked. And that's all I can really say about him, is he's willing to fight for something. He doesn't think that people really should be controlled that often. While Tony, on the other hand, feels like we can only do so much, and at some point we have to give up some of that control. We have to be put in check once in a while. So there you have it. And Robert Downey Jr. has always delivered a fine performance as Iron Man, and the rest of the supporting cast does well. It's I definitely like Sam Wilson. Sebastian Stan does a fine job as Bucky and does well when he's in his Winter Soldier moments. Scarlett Johansson does fine in her role as Romanoff. But there was one flaw to that, because right after she allows Steve and Bucky to escape, prevents the Black Panther from following him, she after that, when she's talking with Tony about what's right and what's wrong, she actually disappears for the rest of the film. You don't see her again. That's one of the flaws. I kind of thought, why would she disappear? And I'm guessing it's because she assisted Steve in escaping. I guess that's why, but it would have been nice to kind of acknowledge what happened with her, because she just disappears and you never see her again. I remember someone saying that she was unlikable in this film. In all honesty, I think she was quite likable, because she was really conflicted. She's all for doing things right in a sense, but I guess she has that kind of a balanced mode of being equal to both sides, because she's very fond of Steve, and she actually comforts Steve. Like right after Peggy Carter dies, she's able to be there for him. She's a friend, you know. She does genuinely care. She does genuinely care about people, especially Steve, and what they're going through and what they've missed. So I disagree with someone saying that she was unlikable. She was very likable. She was just very conflicted. I guess you can say Romanoff is a very conflicted person, and nobody's perfect. We all want to maintain, you know, friendships on both ends. But I guess whenever politics and government comes in, it just really throws people off and confuses them, and it's just really hard to say. But anywho, what's her face? Elizabeth Olsen does a fine job as Wanda. Great to see Paul Bettany back. Does a fine job as Vision. Anthony Mackie's always solid as Falcon. Definitely really liked definitely enjoyed Ant-Man's small role in the film. And Tom Holland does a solid job as Peter Parker, and does a really great job in Spider-Man. And for the action, for what he does in the film, he does a pretty good job. He's able to get the web slinging down pretty good. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but I'm losing my voice. But anyway, I enjoyed the film's fine. Yeah, even Spider-Man 3. And I'll be honest, it is the weakest, but still has some fun with it. But anyway, what was I going to say? Damn, I'm losing. Did I say Sebastian Stan? He does a great job as, yeah, I think I said it, but anyway. I'm off the mark here, and what can I say? I really enjoyed this film. I definitely would recommend you go see it if you haven't. And I'll definitely see it again at some point, but it will probably be the last time, because it's already earned over $300 million so far in the U.S., and it might make it to $400 million if lucky, but we'll see. It's going to be successful either way. And well, yeah, the guy that played Zemo, I don't know his name, but he does a fine job, and it's kind of interesting once again that the villain's kind of human and not a superhero, or not a superhero, but a supervillain with powers and all that stuff. In essence, I guess you could say it's like a mini Avengers kind of film, except it's more of a Team Cap versus Team Iron Man type of movie. So, and I apologize for kind of being out of trance in those moments. I'm just kind of overthinking it, but all I can say is I definitely will recommend this film, and you should definitely see it. Now, after this, I'm going to shift towards another franchise that I'm really excited about, that I really grew up with, to be honest. But I definitely can't wait for this film. It's going to be the X-Men franchise, and since the X-Men Apocalypse is coming out, I'm going to try to review all the X-Men films. I'm just going to review just the X-Men movie titles, not the Wolverine films. I'll try to review those before Apocalypse. If not, I'll make it work somehow. I always do. Okay, well, I think that's it. That's the end of my review, and we will definitely see you later. Stay tuned for my review of the first X-Men film. Later.